Dude is the best quarterback in football. I think he's a touch overrated, but it's not his fault. I've pounded the table for him for years. He's wildly talented, but too inconsistent. He's maybe the most underappreciated quarterback in the game today.
Move it, football head!
What's up, football heads? Welcome back to that show. As always, I'm your host, Kyle McQueen, and today's episode is not for the faint of heart. These are a real man's quarterback rankings. If you're not prepared for this, I was going to say click away, but don't click away. Please don't click away. In fact, like it, subscribe to the channel, and tell your friends. But quarterback rankings, very popular in today's football talk, sports talk climate. Understandably so. I've always been a guy, I like the tiered rankings. So these will be ranked in specifically named tiers. Some within these tiers, it'll be ranked number-wise. Like if there's like the top tier, only 3 names in the top tier, which might surprise some people. Those will be ranked. When we get deeper into the muck of things, I'm not ranking them by numbers. It's sort of like feel free to kind of move these guys in whatever order you want. There's a large chunk of the league here in the middle where it's like you can make a case for this guy being 17th and you can make a case for him being 25th. So I'm not going to parse through that because ultimately it's not that important. Those are all guys that have shown some kind of promise but have something to prove. But these are the definitive quarterback rankings according to me, according to football heads. If you disagree, feel free to leave a comment. Feel free to talk immense amounts of shit about me in the comments. I don't care. Your engagement means the world to me. Let's start out with the top tier, the tip-top tier. The best of the best. 3 names: Josh Allen, reigning, defending, undisputed MVP Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, 2-time MVP, and Patrick Mahomes, 3-time Super Bowl winner. Now, I do have these in order. Josh Allen, number 1. Dude is the best quarterback in football, and I won't apologize for it. You see what he does. He doesn't have the same level of talent on his team as Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, we'll get to him, is a freak, a stud, the absolute man, deserved those 2 MVPs. People might say he deserves more than 2 MVPs. But Josh Allen, he's doing it without a fully established number 1 receiver. They got a nice crop of guys, but you take those guys and put them on a team with a mid-tier quarterback, do we feel like they're nice guys? I don't know. You know, Shakir has looked nice. Keon Coleman looks like he's taken a step forward. They got some other interesting pieces. They got a couple nice tight ends. James Cook running hard out of the backfield. But Josh Allen has come into the league maybe to some overvalued, overdrafted, incredibly raw, super inaccurate. His mechanics were terrible. He was god-awful the first at least year of his career, if not the first 2 years of his career. But he's honed his craft. He's built himself up, and he's the man for the city. There's a reason the Buffalo Bills are the Super Bowl favorites in the betting odds right now, and that reason is Josh Allen. The defense, porous. They can't stop the run. Why are they the top team? Because of Josh Allen. That's it. The only thing separating him and Lamar right now, in my opinion, is the roster. Like James Cook is great, but he ain't Derrick Henry great. And the fumbles aside, they got a ton of talent on the defense, even if the defense is not playing up to snuff. But the Ravens are 1-2. Josh Allen and the Bills 3-0. Now you could say, look at the schedule, but the Bills beat the Ravens. So right now I'm putting Josh Allen above Lamar, but you cannot sleep on Lamar. Lamar is the second best. I will hear arguments that he is the best. I respect that. He's the best runner that we've ever seen as a quarterback in the history of the league. And there's been some great runners, but Lamar Jackson, the way he runs the football is special. It's different. It's not just that he has the long speed, but the shiftiness. I always compare him to Nightcrawler. It's like he just disappears and reappears somewhere else. He slips into the Matrix. It's electrifying to watch. He's transformed into you remember when Lamar Jackson, he's a glorified running back. He can't actually throw the ball. No, we should turn him into a wide receiver. He's turned into one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the game, and he makes everything look so easy. So easy. it's crisp, it's clean, it's smooth, it's beautiful, but then his mobility within the pocket is very understated. There was a play on Monday night against the Lions, and he did take 7 sacks, and we got to give Detroit some credit for that. But with Lamar, he can just he keeps his eyes downfield. There was this play, I thought he was going to get sacked 3 separate times within 3 seconds in the pocket, and probably less than that. And he just moves a couple inches, moves to his left a couple inches, moves forward a couple inches. And he's so unbothered by it. That's the thing with Lamar. He's so unbothered by everything as the play is unfolding. He can just it's you barely even notice him move, and all of a sudden the guy goes right by him, and he maintains his platform, delivers the football. It's the subtlety with which he moves in the pocket compared to the explosiveness and the shiftiness that he has outside the pocket. It's a thing of beauty. And then Patrick Mahomes, I mean, whether you love the Chiefs, hate the Chiefs, love Mahomes, hate Mahomes, the dude is one of the greatest to ever do it already. 3 Super Bowls, you can't ignore it. I feel Chiefs fans breathing down my neck right now. I feel them in the comments bitching and moaning that he's not number one. And you can absolutely make a case that Patrick Mahomes is still number one. But these rankings, this is right now. Right now. And even right now, I think you can make a case that Patrick Mahomes is still number one. Because like Josh Allen, he's missing Rashee Rice. He's missing Xavier Worthy. Travis Kelce, I'm not going to sit here and say he's washed, but he's not who he used to be. There's people arguing on the sidelines. The defense, they're kind of, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. This is not a powerhouse team the way it has been. But the reason I have him 3 here is I don't think you can ignore the importance of Andy Reid, how great he is, how historically great he is, a great offensive mind, brilliant, maybe the greatest play designer of all time. And that is a factor. And you don't want to hold that against Mahomes. But in the case of ranking the best of the best of the best, we got to parse it out somehow. So for me right now, Patrick Mahomes, number 3. But these 3 dudes, the clear cream of the crop, tip of the top, not arguable. And with the next tier, we have victims of circumstance. And I can already feel a lot of people saying, I don't know, how Joe Burrow, how is he not in the top tier? For years now, it's been a core 4, a Mount Rushmore of current quarterbacks, and Joe Burrow is always on that list. But they didn't make the playoffs last year. They didn't make the playoffs the year before. He's been severely injured in 3 of his now 6 NFL seasons, which, being injury prone is sometimes it's thrown around with guys more than other guys. I feel like it has not been thrown around with Joe Burrow at all, but it probably should be if he's going to miss significant portions of 3 of 6 seasons. It kind of has to be discussed for some reason. But this is why he's a victim of a circumstance beyond his control, is that it's not his fault. I do think he's I think he's a touch overrated, but it's not his fault. It's organizational. They put all the money into him and the 2 receivers. They waffled on Trey Hendrickson. They added nothing to the defense. They have consistently put out a terrible offensive line. Whether Joe Burrow is injury prone physically or not, they are not putting him in a position to be healthy because their offensive line can't block. But when you get peak Joe Burrow, he's capable of being in the best of the best tier. And that's what I think this tier is. These 2 guys, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, 2 guys that absolutely could be in the best of the best tier. They belong in the top 5 quarterbacks. But with Joe Burrow, they're just the way the Bills give Josh Allen a chance, the way the Ravens give Lamar a chance, the Chiefs give Patrick Mahomes a chance, the Bengals just do not give Joe Burrow a chance to succeed at the level that he can succeed. And obviously, talent-wise, mentality-wise, he can make all the throws. He's got the arm talent, all that. He's supremely physically gifted and mentally and psychologically gifted. But the injuries and just he if you're going to be a tip-top quarterback, you have to be able to lead your team to the playoffs despite a diminished roster. If you're going to get paid $50, $60 million, you have to make up for roster deficiencies. And thus far, since he's been paid, they have not made the playoffs. And despite the 2-0 start, I don't know that they're going to make the playoffs this year. If they can keep themselves alive and he comes back in December and they rip off a few wins and he gets them in the playoffs and they win a playoff game or two, he can bounce back into that top tier. But right now, I have him number 4, number 1 in the victims of circumstance tier. Jalen Hurts sitting right behind him is the 5th best quarterback in football. He's maybe the most underappreciated quarterback in the game today. He just flat out is. And I feel like people are probably going to watch this and say, Jalen Hurts, the 5th best quarterback, like Steven Ruiz with his annual quarterback rankings. I guess he updates them weekly. So his weekly quarterback rankings to start the season had Jalen Hurts ranked 13th, I believe. It was 12th or 13th in the league. He had Geno Smith at 9th. That's ridiculous. Geno Smith hasn't sniffed a Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts has been to 2 Super Bowls, and he won one. And I can hear you saying, well, they had the defense. They got the offensive line. Saquon Barkley had an all-time great season. They got A.J. Brown. They got Devontae Smith. And that's why he's a victim of circumstance, because they have a loaded roster, and nobody will ever recognize how great he truly is. But you watch the man play. There was a period of time where he was turning the ball over too much. And that was the big question with the Eagles. We knew about the roster. We knew about the defense, the offensive line, the weapons. But Jalen Hurts, he's turning the ball over too much. He's not turning the ball over at all now. He's not fumbling. He's not throwing interceptions. He is, and this is not an insult at all. This is high praise. He is an elite game manager, possibly the best game manager in football. He just operates the offense. Now, the offense with the new offensive coordinator, that's a whole other issue, which plays into being a victim of circumstance. But you watch the man play, it's just elite efficiency. He's not the fastest runner of the football. You know, we can complain, and I have, about the tush push. But he's got the arm. He can make all the throws. He makes the right throws. When they need him to step up and play elite, like last week against the Rams when they're down 19 points in the second half, what does he do? Operates the offense, boom, right down the field, touchdown. They get the ball back, right down the field, touchdown. When you need him to operate at the highest of levels, he operates at the highest of levels. This is an unfair comparison. I'm not directly comparing him to this guy, but in terms of how he is this elite game manager who, when it's needed for him to play elite, he does. It reminds me of early career Tom Brady, which again is not a fair comparison, but Tom Brady early in his career was not slinging the ball all over the place. They had a great defense. Bill Belichick was a great coach with a great scheme. They didn't quite have the weapons that the Eagles currently have, but Tom Brady would just manage the game perfectly, protect the football, and then when it's crunch time, when you need the man in the clutch, he turns into Superman. And that's what Jalen Hurts has done. And he's won a Super Bowl. You can't sit here and act like this dude is not an elite level quarterback. The only thing holding him back from being in the best of the best is that he's a victim of circumstance because they have a loaded roster and they don't consistently ask him to be Superman out there. But Jalen Hurts, we gotta stop disrespecting this man. We have to give him the respect that he deserves. Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback. He just is. Next tier, Super Bowl caliber quarterbacks. We got my boy, the 6th best quarterback in football, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, Matt Stafford, who has won a Super Bowl, and Brock Purdy, who has been to a Super Bowl. Baker Mayfield. I've pounded the table for him for years, and people are finally recognizing it, and I love it. 3 fourth quarter comebacks to start the season. I feel like last year he showed a lot when Mike Evans goes down, Chris Godwin goes down. The Falcons were off to a hot start. The Falcons beat the Bucs twice. The Bucs are fighting from underneath. And I said, and I put my money where my mouth is. I made some bets, and I won those bets for weeks, for 2 months in the middle of the season. I said, the Bucs are going to win this division. You watch them play. They almost beat the Chiefs. There was a couple games in there. Who else did they play? They played someone else. They played another top team, another top contender, and they kept it close without their top two receivers. But you watch the way Baker Mayfield plays, and he just plays with this intense fire that if you're his teammate, if you're a fan of that team, if you're on the coaching staff, no matter how bad it is, no matter how many injuries you have, they're missing both their tackles right now, and they're 3-0 in a large part because Baker Mayfield he keeps that fire burning, not just in himself, but in everyone around him. Early in his career, coming into the league, early in Cleveland, he was perceived as immature, as petulant, a bit of a problem. He's got an attitude. And I feel like he's taken that and he's extricated the negative qualities of it and just crystallized it into this quality. I don't like the term moxie. I feel like there's like a disrespectful undertone to it. It's like a backhanded compliment a little bit at times. It's undersized guys or guys who aren't as talented. Oh, but they got moxie. If you don't look at the term moxie as a slightly negative term, he's got moxie. I just love this idea. He has this fire in him that his team is always going to believe that they have a chance. They are always going to be intense. Every player on that field is going to play with maximum intensity because of the leadership of Baker Mayfield. He threw 40 touchdowns last year. How's he follow it up? They lose their offensive coordinator. They're missing their tackles. Mike Evans goes down. How does he follow it up? 3 fourth quarter comebacks where each week he's made some play, whether it's an electrifying throw or the escape from the pocket and the scramble last week where he dives and does a little tumble roll. Like he's incredible to watch. I'm happy to see him not only just mature as a man and as a quarterback, but to really finally be embraced. I don't know if a lot of people would have him as high as 6th, but he's got the traits, man. He's got the intangibles. He's got the physical tools. We've seen him throw 40 touchdowns, and with no disrespect to Liam Cohen, Duval. Baker Mayfield, it's not like Jared Goff with Ben Johnson, Dan Campbell, and the system in place with all the weapons. And of course, Baker has incredible weapons. And Emeka Egbuka is a stud. But Jared Goff has the system built perfectly for him. And he's next on my list at 7. But Baker, there's a quality to him that I feel like you could put him in any situation. Think about when he went to the Rams, they traded for him on a Tuesday, or they acquired him on a Tuesday, and he starts a game on a Thursday, and he goes out and he wins. He just figures it out. The Cleveland Browns, he won a playoff game with the Cleveland Browns in Pittsburgh. Ain't just anybody doing that. Baker is another guy who has been tremendously disrespected. We have to give Baker his respect. Same with Jared Goff. I feel like, and I just did it a little bit. Jared Goff, it's like, he's a system guy. They got all the weapons. If you get pressure on him consistently, he doesn't perform. But can you win a Super Bowl with him? Absolutely. He's been to a Super Bowl. That's what this tier is, Super Bowl caliber quarterbacks. You going to sit here and tell me Jared Goff can't win you a Super Bowl? The dude is a sniper. You give him good protection, he is a sniper. Those weapons are those weapons because of how much of a sniper this dude is. With no disrespect to Amon-Ra St. Brown, who the sun god is a tremendous player. But is he as good with a different quarterback? I think like those two guys, their skill sets are just meant for each other. Like Amon-Ra helps make Jared Goff. Jared Goff helps make Amon-Ra. Dan Campbell's belief in Jared Goff helps bring out this leadership that I think you look at him and he looks a little goofy, looks a little chill, but you watch him in quarterback season 2 and you listen to the people that play with him, and he's another guy that just has this intensity to him that you might not perceive visually as a fan watching at home the same way you do with Baker Mayfield, but there's an intensity to Jared Goff. And the dude has done nothing in his time with Detroit except consistently get better to the point where the last couple years into this year, he's a cyborg. He's a Terminator as a quarterback. Like, unless you get consistent pressure on this guy, he's going to pick you apart. He's supremely accurate. He leads the league in completion percentage right now. I believe 77.9%. The guy's a stud. we got to give Jared Goff his respect. And for me, he's the seventh best quarterback in football. Matt Stafford, I have 8, despite the fact that he has won a Super Bowl. So obviously, he's a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. With him, again, this is for right now. He's older. You got the back injury coming into the season. I feel like the last few years he's dealt with a neck and a back and all these things that like they come with age and just the amount of hits that he's taken over the years. And the thing with Stafford for me is whether he's protected or not, he is prone to throwing the occasional bozo ball. And that's why I've got him 8th behind a couple of these guys, behind or besides the fact that he has won a Super Bowl, but he's won a Super Bowl. You see how quick he established chemistry with Devontae Adams this year in 3 games? Like the dude, I used to clown him a lot when he was in Detroit. He would always beat my Vikings. They would always find a way to at least make it competitive. I think about the 2016 season where it was 2 tight games and he would just, in the clutch, he would figure it out. But in Detroit, his record against winning teams 500 and above on the road, he just didn't get it done. It was like, I think this guy's a bit overrated. Everyone's looking at him like, he's throwing for 5,000 yards. Oh, what a great quarterback he is. I don't think he was great. I think he was really good and he had the ability to be great, but it was Detroit back when Detroit was still old Detroit, not new Detroit. But his time in LA with Sean McVay, it's just, he's a stud. I feel you get whatever doubt I had or anyone else had about who Matt Stafford is, like he's earned his respect. And again, the only reason that he's as low as the 8th best quarterback in football is just it's the physical decline. He doesn't have that much time left, and again, he's still more so than the guys ahead of him prone to throw the occasional ill-timed interception that does at times kind of bite you in the ass. And then Brock Purdy comes in, the last one in this tier. You got to put him in the Super Bowl caliber quarterbacks tier. He quarterbacked the Niners to a lead in the Super Bowl, and he never got the ball back. It was not his fault that they lost that game. The Niners defense just couldn't stop Patrick Mahomes. A lot of defenses can't stop Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes just gets it done when he needs to get it done. But Brock Purdy has proven he's a guy who could take you to the Super Bowl, and he put the team in position to win the Super Bowl. The question I have about him, the reason I have him here at 9th is now that he's paid and the roster starts getting stripped away, can he be a guy, like I talked about with Joe Burrow, that elevates the roster despite the fact that there's roster deficiencies? Now that he doesn't have a fully loaded roster the way he has, can he elevate them? That's the question with Brock Purdy. We're going to move on to the next tier. This tier is the streaky shooters with something to prove tier. 3 names: Jordan Love, Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott. I'm not going to rank these specifically because whoever sits at the top of this, you're saying is a top 10 quarterback. I don't feel comfortable definitively saying one of these is top 10. Jordan Love just coming off this long stretch where he didn't throw an interception in 200 and something passes, and then he throws a back-breaking critical interception at the worst possible time, and they lose a game to the Browns. We are sleeping on the Browns defense, by the way. I'm not sleeping on them. You might be sleeping on them. I hope you're not sleeping on them because their defensive line is disgusting. But so we got to give him some grace with that. But that's the thing is, like, it felt like we were finally getting to a point where it's like, okay, maybe Jordan Love is turning a corner here where he's eliminating the bozo balls. He's getting out of being this streaky guy who, think about his first year as a starter, the run at the end of the season through the playoffs where he's just bombing the ball everywhere. Everything's connecting. He's not turning the ball over, but then he turns the ball over a bunch. And so I want to see where he goes from here. Obviously, like I said, the back-breaking interception against the Browns. Is he streaking back the other way? We need to see him be consistent. He's wildly talented, but too inconsistent for me to trust him right now. I need to see a full season of him really limit some of these things. And in many ways, he's Aaron Rodgers. You could tell he was groomed under him for a few years, but he's got Brett Favre in him. Bad Brett Favre, where he'll just string together way too many turnovers. Not quite as bad as Brett Favre, but he's got to be consistent. That's the only question. Like Jordan Love, can you win playoff games with him? Yes. You could probably win a Super Bowl with him. But right now, the question for me is, can he eliminate these stretches of turnovers that when you get into the playoffs and you're playing increasingly the best of the best of the best, you're going to face situations where you got to be able to temper yourself from throwing these back-breaking interceptions. And thus far, he has not done that. So he's capable. He's capable of being top 10. He's capable of being in that Super Bowl caliber quarterbacks tier, but we need to see him be consistent. Justin Herbert, I've talked a lot about Justin Herbert on this channel. He's the most overrated quarterback in football because we still have people putting him in the top 5, which is ridiculous. He's got top 5 talent. Regular season, stud. Right now, he's playing at an MVP level. Can't be argued. He had the touchdown throw to Keenan Allen in week 3 was just Keenan Allen, great catch, but thing of beauty. The dude's super talented, so physically gifted, mentally, psychologically, he's on point. But in the playoffs, for some reason, in his 2 trips to the playoffs, he's crumbled. I'm willing to give him the grace of dealing with Brandon Staley for a couple years. Yeah, Brandon Staley, not a head coach. But now with Jim Harbaugh, we need him to elevate. Thought it would happen last year, but what does he do? He throws more interceptions in one playoff game than he threw the entire season. So again, it's a different type of inconsistency, but it's similar to Jordan Love. There's this burning question about them where it's like physically, like you see them be guys that you could easily see winning a Super Bowl. You could easily see them being a top 5 quarterback, but they crater in these moments, and they got to get over that. Justin Herbert, we need to see go win a playoff game. They're gonna make the playoffs. They're probably gonna win that division. He's gonna put up numbers. He's gonna be in the MVP race. Get to the playoffs, win a playoff game, and we'll go from there. I'm peeling back on saying he's the most overrated quarterback in football because I feel like now everyone's saying he's super overrated, which is the exact point where then you start to become underrated. I'm not going to say he's underrated either, but Justin Herbert, he's right around that top 10 mark. And then Dak Prescott, everyone's a Cowboys hater. It's so tiring. It's a narrative driven by the major media outlets. It's driven by Jerry Jones, who wants to be talked about in the major media outlets all the time. He's maybe the most dissected quarterback in football because he's the Dallas Cowboys starting quarterback, and that just comes with the territory. It's easy to poke fun at him. It's easy, he took too much time in that playoff game with San Francisco, and then the clock ran out before they could kick a field goal. It's easy to poke fun when he throws an interception late in the game. And on the flip side, it's like we've seen him operate the best offense in football. We've seen him quarterback a team to 12 wins 3 years in a row. He's clearly a damn good quarterback. Again, I like Herbert, like Love. You can see Dak Prescott being a quarterback in a Super Bowl. You can see it. But it's some years he gets injured. Other years it's the back-breaking interception at the wrong time. It's sort of a mixed bag of him being inconsistent, and he's over 30 years old now. Like, the time is now. The Cowboys don't look like they're going to have a great season, but I can't ignore the fact that when the dude is healthy, we've seen him be the quarterback of the top offense in the league. Like, he's crazy talented. So right now, I'd put him at the bottom of this tier, which would put him at 12. But Dak, it's time to get it done, man. It's time to get it done because we're getting close to he can jump up or he can fall back down. And if he falls back down, he's going to fall back down behind the next 2 guys in the next tier. Young studs on the rise. We got Jaden Daniels and CJ Stroud. And I can already hear people saying, how is Jaden Daniels not higher than Dak Prescott? How are you not putting him in a higher discussion than this? CJ Stroud, people are starting to peel back a little bit because of the 0-3 start. And the offensive line hasn't been as bad as it looks on paper, but they're still not scoring any points. So who's to blame? Is it the offensive line? Is it CJ Stroud? Is it the offensive coordinator? I don't know. But I keep seeing people put Jaden Daniels as the 5th best quarterback. off of 1 year. And we can't do that. We cannot do that. Like, it's not fair to him. There's tape on him now. People are going to play him differently. They know how to scout him better, which is why I like this tier. Young studs on the rise. By the end of this year, it would not shock me if Jaden Daniels is firmly in the Super Bowl caliber quarterbacks category. You could argue he already is a Super Bowl caliber quarterback based on going to the NFC Championship game last year. But it's 1 year. We got to give him time we need a bigger sample size to know, is he going to be inconsistent? Now he's injured. Is this going to be a case where he was injured in college a bunch and that was a concern coming out with the slight frame? Is he going to get injured in the pros? We don't have a big enough sample size to just like pound the table and say this guy's the fifth best quarterback in football. They do this all the time with young quarterbacks. They rate them too highly for reasons because they get excited because they see something great real quick and he's one of the best. And maybe he is one of the best, but we need to see him do it over and over and over again. Come talk to me after the season. Come talk to me in a couple years. And he's not going to be a young stud on the rise. He's going to be somewhere else, probably above this, either a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. Maybe he'll be in the best of the best. Maybe he'll be a streaky shooter. We'll find out. But we got to give him time. And with C.J. Stroud, I already touched on it a little bit. It was the same thing. Incredible rookie year. They win a playoff game. Oh, C.J. Stroud, he could be a top 5 quarterback by the end of his second year. And nobody's saying that now. So that's a little bit of a warning again for Jaden Daniels. But Stroud, 0-3. The offense looks anemic. I don't know what the problem is. Again, on paper, the offensive line looks terrible, but they got weapons. C.J. Stroud, see if he bounces back this year. But we've seen him do it. First 2 years in the league, they've won a playoff game in each year. So that's something. We can't ignore that. So he remains a young stud on the rise. Maybe he'll be a streaky shooter after this year. Maybe he'll be a Super Bowl caliber quarterback this year. Maybe if it goes horribly wrong the entire season, maybe he falls back a little bit. We'll see. Next tier number 6, only one name in this tier. This is the Toby Keith quarterback tier, Aaron Rodgers. And people are going to say you have Aaron Rodgers way too high, but I am a Vikings fan and I am Stockholm syndrome by this man. I will not put him any lower than I absolutely have to. And again, Toby Keith tier may not be as good as he once was, but he's as good once as he ever was. And I do believe he's still got magic in that arm. We know what Aaron Rodgers was capable of. And I believe you get him in the right situation. You need him one game, he could produce magic. He could put up points. He can't scramble like he used to. He can't evade the sacks like he used to. He's not the same guy that's throwing Hail Marys and just it was almost like he was operating with dark magic at times. I don't know if he's still got that, but he's still got some magic to him. So I'm not putting him any lower than this because all the names that come after this, there's too many questions about. And we've seen Aaron Rodgers do it, and that means something to me. He doesn't look so physically diminished the way Peyton Manning did in his last season. He doesn't look quite as great maybe as Tom Brady did at the end, but I think somewhere right here in the middle is the right spot for Aaron Rodgers. It's Aaron Rodgers. He's a very singular man, so he gets to be the only quarterback in his own tier, at least until the very end, because we did have a little bit of a shift because I made my notes for this before there was a quarterback change from Russ to Jackson Dart, so we'll see how that shakes out. But Aaron Rodgers, like I said, he may not be as good as he once was, but he's as good once as he ever was. And maybe I'll be proven wrong on that. We'll see. Time will tell. Next tier is the biggest tier. This is where it really falls apart in terms of ranking stuff. I tried my best to break this apart into multiple tiers, to try and rank these guys, to maybe create groups of rankings with these guys, and I just couldn't figure it out, so I call this the mud tier. Bunch of names here: Sam Darnold, Kyler Murray, Daniel Jones, Drake May, Trevor Lawrence, Bo Nix, Geno Smith, Tua Tagovailoa, Caleb Williams, Justin Fields, Bryce Young. Sam Darnold has looked pretty solid. He went to quarterback rehab school with Kevin O'Connell. He's looked pretty damn solid this year. I was skeptical about the offensive fit with the system in Seattle, but he's managing. He's not cratering. He's not seeing ghosts out there. He's been efficient. He hasn't been rattled. There's been a lot of pressure on him, but he hasn't turned the ball over a bunch. So I think that's a positive sign. I think here's what I'm going to do for the mud tier. Are they trending up or are they trending down? Sam Darnold is trending up. Maybe he can rise up out of this and find his way into the streaky shooters tier. In fact, there could be a case to be made for that. But if he gets through this year, has another good year, maybe not as good as last year, but a good year, maybe he moves up into that tier. Kyler Murray, I just don't trust him. I don't think he's trending up or down. I think he's a mid-tier quarterback. He's super athletic. He can make big plays, but he's too negatively expressive when things don't go his way. I don't like that. I don't think that's good leadership. And it's just, other than that one year where for the first 3 months of the season, the Cardinals were the best team in football, and then they fell apart and they didn't even win the division. Have we ever seen him really be great? Have we ever seen him elevate the team? Have we ever seen him really be even a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback, much less a Super Bowl caliber quarterback? I don't think so. So he remains this intriguing athletic guy who can, make all these throws and scramble around, but I don't trust him. I don't think anyone trusts him. And he's gradually becoming one of these guys where it's you marry yourself to him because it's we could do so much worse than Kyler Murray. But where's that getting your team? Are you ever going to win more than 9, maybe 10 games with Kyler Murray? I don't think so, especially with him making the money that he's making. He's not worth the money. He's just not. He's a very different quarterback, but there's a Kirk Cousins element to that. You're spending all this money on the guy because he feels safe, but safe ain't going to win you a Super Bowl, baby. And Kyler Murray ain't going to do it either. So he's in the mud tier. Daniel Jones, tremendous start to the season, has not turned the ball over at all. He's doing things that neither Peyton Manning or Johnny Unitas have ever done. He's got a passing touchdown in each game. He's got a rushing touchdown in each game. They're 3-0, playing tremendous football. He had a cup of coffee in the Kevin O'Connell quarterback rehab school. Thought maybe he left too early. I thought, I don't know if this is the right decision just to chase the opportunity to start, but he's balling, man. Indiana Jones is balling. He is definitely trending upwards, and we could see him bump himself up out of this mud tier. If he does this all year long and they make the playoffs, we've seen Daniel Jones quarterback a team to the playoffs. We've seen Daniel Jones quarterback a team to win a playoff game. Granted, they played an Ed Donatel defense, which does need to be stated, but he's on the way up. You got to like Daniel Jones, but we got to see it for more than 3 games before we can take him out of the mud. That's the only reason he's still in there. It's too small of a sample size. But keep it up, Daniel Jones. We're rooting for you. We on this show are rooting for Daniel Jones. I think most people are rooting for Daniel Jones. Maybe Giants fans who are jaded and why couldn't he do this for us? But even then, I feel like they blame the organization and the management and the coaching staff more than hating on Daniel Jones. Next up, we got Drake May. Drake May's trending up. I feel like you look at the stats and I think he's playing good football, but you watch the games and I feel like there's just mistakes in key moments. But he's young. He's a guy I feel like had the right mentality to be bad for a couple years and still keep progressing in the way that Josh Allen did, but he hasn't been bad. He's been pretty damn good. So he's a guy who's definitely trending up. We just don't know enough yet. I can't quite put him in young studs on the rise because he hasn't created the level of team success of a Jaden Daniels or a CJ Stroud, and part of that's just roster deficiencies around him. But he's a guy I want to see him grow. I think he's trending in the right direction. Trevor Lawrence. Oh, I was so high on Trevor Lawrence coming out in the draft. I was so high on him. And he's just, again, he's. If you watch the noob football picks this week, I break down some stats on the Jags where it's like he's his time to throw is excellent. He's not facing a ton of pressure. He's not being hurried a bunch. He's not being hit a bunch. And his receivers, they have the most drops in football, but he keeps throwing these back breaking interceptions at the absolute worst time. And they are 2-1, but he's got the worst completion percentage in the league. And he's just throwing too many picks at the worst time, man. Trevor, he's got the talent, but you gotta pull yourself out the mud. But he keeps just tripping face first into the mud. So right now he's in the mud tier, and it just is what it is. Bo Nix looked, a steady progression last year as a rookie. Started out pretty bad, and by the end of the year, I think most people looked at Bo Nix and were like, oh, he's better than I thought he would. It helps that Sean Payton's his coach. That was the right fit for him, but he was trending upward. I think the Broncos were a very chic pick coming into the league or coming into the season, and he's just been terrible. There's no way around it. People like Kurt Warner, Dan Orlovsky, people that played the position, I was going to say at a high level, no offense to Dan Orlovsky, but played in the league. They're saying he's just not playing good football. He's playing bad football right now, which is what it is. He's trending downward. Him and Sean Payton are yelling at each other, and it looks ugly. I feel like because he started his entire rookie season, I can't put him in the tier below this. So he's somewhere in the mud, and I mean, we've seen him play efficient ball. He can get back to it, but even then, is he any higher than just I was going to say an efficient mid-tier quarterback, but he's not even efficient right now. So Bo Nix is in the mud. Geno Smith's also in the mud because Geno, we've seen him take a team to the playoffs. They wrote him off. He didn't write back. Everyone was enjoying it. Everyone was happy for Geno. And then, he starts for a few years, and he's another guy. It's just you get into the red zone, he's going to throw a pick. He can air it out. He could throw for 400 yards in the game, no problem. He could throw for 3 touchdowns, no problem. Again, like I said, we've seen him lead a team to the playoffs, but he's just going to throw that red zone pick. He's going to throw the pick at the end of the game. It's just going to happen. And that's why he's in the mud. And I don't know if he's trending up or down. I guess relative to a few years ago, he's trending down, but I think right now he's just sort of treading water in the mud. Tua, on the other hand, is trending down. He's lost his confidence. He's going in the media saying, the other team has a better quarterback than we do. And it's like, yeah, we know because the other quarterback he was talking about is the best quarterback in football, Josh Allen. But you don't say that in the media. And then he goes into his press conference, the interception to Terrell Bernard in the Bills game. He says, I'd make that throw every time. And then Mike McDaniel comes up and says, yeah, no, that was the wrong read. He should have thrown it to the flat. He's just, the concussions aside, Tua, he's not who he was a couple years ago. I just don't feel like he's playing confidently. Even where he had ultimately a pretty solid game against the Bills and they were in a position to win that game, he exudes a lack of confidence right now. And he's not as good as the guys in the streaky shooters tier. He's stuck in the mud here somewhere in the middle. Caleb Williams is a guy who he's got too much of a sample size to say he has a small sample size, but we haven't seen him be efficient enough and play on schedule enough to put him in the young studs on the rise. If things go well with Ben Johnson, I think you watch that Cowboys game, you saw the promise of the premise. He didn't take any sacks, didn't turn the ball over. The Ben Johnson offense, you could see how a Ben Johnson operating his offense the way he wants to operate it. Caleb doing the crazy Caleb stuff that we know he's capable of. It's almost built into the structure of a Ben Johnson offense. But the problem is, to get to that, you have to play on schedule around that. And he did against the Cowboys. And we've seen him do it in spurts at times, but can he be consistent in that? Can he be consistent in not taking a bunch of sacks? That's what we need to see. So if he could build off of that Cowboys game, and by the end of the year, we say he turned a corner, he's figuring out the system, he's playing more on schedule, him and Ben Johnson, they're figuring it out. He's absolutely going to rise up to young studs on the rise. Absolutely. But if he doesn't and he remains inconsistent, then he's just going to be stuck in the mud. So Caleb, after that game, he's trending up, but we need to see it and keep seeing it. So, I mean, I'm not rooting for it because I'm a Vikings fan. I don't want to see the Bears have any success at all. But for Caleb's sake, just keep working on the craft. Now, the man he replaced, Justin Fields, injured right now, out for Tyrod Taylor. It looked so good in week one. It looked like he was finally, they had an offense built around his specific skill set. Maybe this is it for Justin Fields. He's super talented. I cling to my hopes because I always was a little bit of a Justin Fields guy. I'm clinging to it, but it's just tremendous inconsistency. And there's just times, most of the time, where it feels like he's just not seeing the field and he's too limited and too reliant on the athleticism. But yeah, I think after that Bills game, he's got to be trending down. But another good game, if they come out, if he plays and they come out and they beat Miami, he could be trending up again. But either way, he's stuck in the mud. And then Bryce Young, I think we were all getting excited at the end of last year. Oh, Bryce Young, he's starting to figure it out. The Panthers look like they're a competent team. And I always love when teams finish the year strong. You feel like, okay, they're going to carry the momentum in. And then they just didn't. And they looked terrible for 2 weeks. And then they blow Atlanta out 30-0. But like you would expect 30-0, like, oh, Bryce Young had a breakout performance. But he really didn't. So Bryce, again, too big of a sample size. There hasn't been enough good to say that he's a young stud on the rise. So he's stuck in the mud like the rest of these guys. All right, now our second to last tier, we got the small sample size tier, which is a bunch of, you got 2 rookies from this year and 3 rookies from last year who didn't play a ton last year. You got Michael Penix Jr., J.J. McCarthy, Cam Ward, Spencer Rattler, and Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart has no sample size, so he theoretically could be in his own category. But Michael Penix Jr., we've seen some flashes, but then last week it looked terrible. J.J. McCarthy, J.J. McCarthy has shown the most in a concentrated period out of any of these. The fourth quarter in his debut against the Bears was like, I'm watching, I'm like, this is exactly why I wanted my Vikings to draft J.J. McCarthy, because this is who he's capable of being. But then the other 7 quarters looked pretty bad. Cam Ward, he's drawn a lot of tough matchups to start the season. He's a supremely talented guy. So, again, it's 3 games. You got to give him time. Spencer Rattler, I got to say, the Saints are terrible. There's no way around it. But Spencer Rattler has only turned the ball over once this year, I believe. He has 1 interception. I'm not 100% sure on the fumbles. But I feel like we've seen some growth from him. He's not as rough as I expected. I expected more of a, like, high variance with him coming into the league, but I feel like he's been relatively, I mean, it's not like I'm sitting here grinding Saints tape, but I feel like he's been relatively consistent. He just hasn't really been great, and there's just not a lot around him, so he's kind of in a bad situation. But he's fared better than I thought, but it's again, it's a small sample size. And then Jackson Dart, no sample size, terrible draw for his first career game. Just he's gonna face pressure all day. Tough draw. They put him in a bad spot, but he's a guy to go back to. He's got moxie, a white guy who wears a headband, got to have moxie. The fans wanted him. The fans got him. We'll see what he's got. Hopefully he's got the right mentality to suck for a while, because he's not really in a great spot. But getting past this first game, when you get to some easier games or games where you're not facing an insane defensive front, they got weapons. You got a weapon. You got Neighbors. The Cam Scatterbo, Tyrone Tracy backfield. I know Tyrone Tracy hasn't necessarily taken the step forward that Tyrone Tracy fans and Giants fans hoped, but I think that has the potential to be a pretty good backfield. Cam Scatterbo just runs hard. They got Andrew Thomas back. Wan'Dale Robinson's playing good ball. So, and then again, their defensive front, at some point they got to start getting some sacks and getting off the field early and forcing some turnovers and getting the ball back. And I think by the end of the year, I think Jackson Dart has a real chance to round into some kind of form where I don't know if he'll quite get to the young studs on the rise tier, but I think he has a chance to go into next year in that mud tier, trending upwards, looking like if he gets off to a hot start next year, he could get into the young studs on the rise tier. But that's all projection because he hasn't played it. Well, he has played a few downs, but we haven't seen him really play quarterback yet in the league. They're on last tier. Originally had two names, now only has one. Old and washed. Joe Flacco. No disrespect to Flacco. Originally this was Flacco and Russ, and two very different old and washed. Russ is old and washed in a very loud, explosive, ugh, I don't know about this kind of way. Whereas Flacco, it's just kind of he was pretty much done and came back and has stuck around for a few years now and is he can operate the offense, but it's just there's a respectability to how old and washed Joe Flacco is, but he is in fact old and washed. But those are the real man's QB rankings, the definitive quarterback rankings in tiers. You will not find quarterback rankings in football talk, on ESPN, on FS1, on YouTube, in a podcast, anywhere on the planet better than this one. Maybe you disagree completely. If you disagree, tell me why I'm an idiot. If you agree, tell me why I'm a genius. Either way, subscribe, leave a comment, check out the football picks for this week. I had the balls to pick a game to be a tie in what is ultimately a competition between Caesar and myself to have the best record at the end of the year, and I was still willing to pick a tie. So check that out. Tell a friend, subscribe, have fun, be safe out there. Till next time, take it easy, football heads.
Move it, football head!